times. They haven't been able to break, I got you the greatest tax cut in the history of this country. And they have tried, but they haven't been able to break it yet. But at some point, it expires in another fairly short period of time. So get ready for that one. These people want you to pay much higher taxes. It's crazy. And we could do it so much easier. Everyone can see the stunning contrast between our incredible success and Joe Biden's horrendous failures. And that's one reason why we're leading so big in the polls. That's really the reason. I think it's more enthusiasm now than 2016 or 2020, because you've seen how incompetent these people are. It's horrible. In the recent Rasmussen poll, we're up 44 points with Trump at 57, Ron DeSanctimonious at 13, and the rest of them down in single digits, really low. And in the morning consult that just came out, I wanted to see, because, every time you get indicted, I like to check the polls, because one more indictment that I think this election's over. One more. No, it's horrible. You get indicted for nothing. Can you imagine a guy? Let's indict my opponent. This becomes a third world country. The latest morning consult poll has us far ahead. We're at 59%, and the others are at like 12. One is at 12. I think that's DeSanctimonious, but he's rapidly being caught by Ramaswamy. Who's good? No, Christie's, he's eating right now. He can't be bothered. Sir, please do not call him a fat pig. That's very disrespectful. Don't call him. See, I'm trying to be nice. Don't call him a fat pig. You can't do it. You can't do that. So now, because you're not allowed to do that, and therefore we're not going to do it, okay? We want to be very civil, right? So the latest coefficient poll, which is a big deal, have us almost at 60-13, with our lead over DeSantis growing by 9 points just since a few weeks ago. And even the recent New York Times poll has us up by 37 points, and that was older, now, and Ron DeSanctimonious. The reason I don't like him is that I got him elected. When you get somebody, I don't want to go through the whole story because most of you know, but he came to me, he needed help, he was getting demolished in the primary. Stupidly, I said, all right, I'll do it. Because I didn't know the guy I was running against. His name was Adam Putnam. I said, I'll do it, because, he was one of the 200 people that were on television. He was no better than anybody else. He was no Jim Jordan, that I can tell you. And he was on television and fighting a little bit on impeachment hoax number 1 and impeachment hoax number 2. So I said, you know what? I actually told him, if I were Abraham Lincoln, if we brought him back from the dead, and if we brought George Washington back from the dead, and they gave you the greatest endorsement, and they hugged you and kissed you just like you did to Obama, just like, he did and Christie did. Who hugged and kissed Obama harder, DeSantis or Chris Christie? I think Chris Christie. Remember that? He grabbed him. Obama said, get this guy off of me. And that was the end of Romney when that happened. That could have been a good thing, but we are in New Hampshire, aren't we? Yeah, that's all right. No, but he asked me. So I said, you know what, Ron, let's do it. Go ahead, let's do it. So I gave him a very strong endorsement. And the next day, he went like a rocket right through the thing. And he blew people that worked for Adam Putnam couldn't believe it. They never called me. But I didn't know Adam Putnam. He was the Secretary of Agriculture. He should have called me. I would have endorsed him. Sometimes it's the first one to call. Sometimes you don't do it at all. But he did. And then I had to get him through Gillum. Remember Gillum? He turned out to be a pothead, crackhead. But everybody thought he was the hottest one in politics. And Ron said, I won't be able to beat him. I said, why? He's the hottest man in politics. I said, you can beat him. Then he comes, he calls me, could you do a rally? Then he actually said, could you do 3? I think I did 3 rallies. We had massive crowds. Those rallies. We're doing a lot of them. Again, they're hotter now than anything because of what's happening, because of how bad it is. But I did and he ends up winning the election. Then 4 years later, would you run against the president? These maniacs are screaming, would you run against the president? Would you run? will you run? And he goes, I have no comment. I said, what? Did he say that? I heard this. I'm watching a newscast. I'm watching a fake newscast, and they say, would you run against the president? He shouts out, I have no comment. Now, to me, that means he's running. So I said, that son of a bitch is running. Can you believe it? I just got him elected. So that's why I've been particularly hard at him. And fortunately, it's worked because he's crashing. He's like, he doesn't know what happened. He goes home, he says, what happened? What did I do wrong? You know what he did wrong? He ran. What he did wrong is he should have waited till 28. But I don't know if that would have held water, because eventually they would have figured out, you do need some personality if you're going to be a politician, just a little. Some of them don't have too much. Like your governor, like your governor. In the new Emerson poll of battleground states in Arizona, we're leading Biden by a lot. And very importantly, at that same poll and in other polls, we're leading Biden by 7, 8, 9, 11 points. But you know what? When I hear we're leading by 2 or 3 or 4 points, you got to understand, that's actually a lot for a Republican, because they have a built-in vote that no matter who you are, even if you can't put 2 sentences together, you get like 40. We don't have that. We have to win the entire East Coast, like we did in 2016 and like we did in 2020, too, by the way. So, but they're watching closely. They're watching. In that same poll, we're leading in the primary by 47. Think of that, 40, that's a lot. But we will not play prevent defense. You ever see in the NFL? They don't allow a point on the other team, not a point. Their defense is brutal. They can't get, now they just have to hold the other team one more series. They have to hold, just please hold them. Let's go prevent defense. Ping, ping, the end of the game. Touchdown, touchdown. We will not play, is that okay? We will not play prevent, right? But everyone else is in single digits. Here's one you'll like. In the New Hampshire brand new coefficient poll, respected highly, the New Hampshire Journal has us leading by 43 points. We're leading by. And DeSantis, Ron DeSanctimonious, he's at 9 points. He's at 9. He's time to go back to Florida, Ron, and work on your insurance that's costing everybody a fortune. And now we're dominating Biden in the general election. Harvard-Harris has us up by 5 points, and we're up 18 points among independents. Remember, they like to go around, well, will Trump get the independents? Will Trump get the women? You know what the women want? The women want safety. They want to have a border. They want to have low taxes, low interest rates. They don't want, in their beautiful suburbs, they talk about, oh, the suburban women. I think the suburban women like me. You know what I did? We have a lot of suburban. No. They don't want to have a low-income housing job built right next to their house. That's what the Democrats want. So I give them strong borders. I give them good safety. I give them a powerful military. Education, so important. By the way, speaking of education, because this is largely about veterans, we are going to bring education back to the states so that each state will run 100%. We'll keep approximately 3 people in Washington just to make sure that you're teaching English, okay, as opposed to another language. Okay, you need a little coordination, like everybody has to teach English if you don't mind. But we'll keep a little bit of like 2 or 3 people. But we have building after building after building, and here's the problem. No matter what poll you look at of education in the world, we're at the bottom of the polls, and we spend more money than anybody else. We spend double and triple what number 2 is, like Norway, Denmark, believe it or not, China, very high ranking, Japan. But Norway and Denmark, they said, we're following New York City. They said, we are going to follow the Norwegian system. I said, that didn't work out. You know how long that lasted? About 15 minutes, That didn't work out too well for New York. I'll tell you, New York is sad. Did you see what's happening in New York with the, okay? How about, when I left New York was a proud city. And now it's so sad to see what's happened to that city. And in the big new premise poll, we're beating Biden by a lot, while DeSantis is losing to Biden by a lot. So that's enough of that stuff. But, you know, the polls are phenomenal. People want us back. They remember what we had. We built the economy twice. We built the greatest economy in the world, and then we did it a second time after COVID. But these incredible numbers are the primary reason that crooked Joe Biden has weaponized law enforcement. He has weaponized. He's done something that nobody thought. They talked about it, but nobody ever did it, and never to this extent, and ordered his top political opponent, me, arrested. They actually arrested right in the middle of a presidential election that Biden is losing badly. You know, he says, I'm down in the polls to Trump. Let's arrest him. Let's arrest him. Let's indict him and arrest him. Please indict him and arrest him. He's killing me in the polls. What they didn't know is that I was going to go up. Because the good thing is we have a voice. Somebody gets indicted, you go down, usually, right? I would say Corey, almost always. You go down, but they know me, and these charges are so Presidential Records Act. It's just exactly for that case. They don't want me to speak about a rigged election. They don't want me to speak about it. Whereas I have freedom of speech, First Amendment. How can my corrupt political opponent, crooked Joe Biden, put me on trial during an election campaign that I'm winning by a lot, but forcing me nevertheless to spend time and money away from the campaign trail in order to fight bogus, made-up accusations and charges? That's what they're doing. I'm sorry, I won't be able to go to Iowa today. I won't be able to go to New Hampshire today because I'm sitting in a courtroom on bullshit because his attorney general charged me with something. Terrible. Thank you very much. No, it is. Think of it. They say charge him. Now, you know, they miscalculated a little bit. You know the other good line? No, actually, we want to run against Trump. No. If they didn't want to run, you have to, they'd say, oh, we would much prefer running against Trump. That's because they had such an easy time when Hillary ran against me. And last time we did much better than that. You know, somebody said we sold hundreds of millions of hats. Somebody said the other day, many polls, you know, in counties we had like almost 3,000, they have 200, so many different metrics. But hats, the red hats, the white hats, all the hats, we sold even the farmer hats, which are green, right? Make farmers great again. Did I make farmers great again? I got them 28 billion from China. That's why I said, no way I lose Iowa. Why is that? Why are you so confident? Because I got the farmers $28 billion. Nobody else did. But think of this. Somebody said it the other day. I never thought of it. There were red hats all over South Carolina. We had almost 80,000 people. You saw it. We were in this gorgeous area, this gorgeous town. I don't want to say the name of the town, because if I do, they'll try and change the name back to, you know, something else. But it was a beautiful, beautiful place, and the sheriff was great. Everybody was great. We had 80,000 people, and it was a sea of red hats mostly, but white also, green and everything. But I'll tell you, you were there, right? 80,000 people. And you took a look at that, and I said, has anybody ever seen a Biden hat? So think of it. We have hundreds of millions over the 6, 7 years, 8 years. We have hundreds of millions of hats sold. And I'm asking, has anybody ever seen a hat saying Biden? I don't think so. Well, we did have hats, because we made them, that said, where's Hunter? Where's Hunter? Holy where he turned out to be. He was in some dark places. But is this going to be where they go and indict your opponent? Is this going to be the next president's going to say, hey, listen, my opponent is doing really well all over the place. Look at the crowds we have. I mean, outside you got a lot of people. And by the way, I want to say officially for the press, it's about 110 degrees in this room. Nice job with the air conditioning, whoever. But you know what the press will say? You know what they'll say? Trump didn't look well. He was extremely wet. It's 104 or 5 degrees in this room, but we're okay with it, right? Sure. But is this going to be the future of elections in America, where a sitting president tells his attorney general to indict the opponent, to try and knock the opponent down? This is what's happening. And then you ask the simple question. So this has been going on for a long time, the same stuff. Why didn't they do it 2.5 years ago? You know why? Because then it wouldn't have mattered so much. You know, they want to take away your freedom of speech. Everything else would have mattered a lot less. And it would have been terrible because it's all bogus. But why, if they were going to do it, why didn't they do it 2.5 years ago before the election, right? They waited till the election. They waited. And I probably have another one. They say there's a young woman, a young racist in Atlanta. She's a racist. And they say, I guess, they say that she was after a certain gang, and she ended up having an affair with the head of the gang or a gang member. And this is a person that wants to indict me. She's got a lot of problems, but she wants to indict me to try and run for some other office. What's going on in this country is, and by the way, wants to indict me for a perfect phone call. This was even better than my perfect call with Ukraine. Remember that call? That was a perfect call. This one's better. This one is more perfect. I challenged the election in Georgia, which I have every right to do, which I was right about, frankly. And they want to indict me because I challenged the election. So does that mean that Hillary Clinton, who challenged the election, does that mean that Stacey Abrams and all of the other, virtually every Democrat challenges the election? Does that mean, or they do the slate of electors. This has been going on since Thomas Jefferson. He wanted to say, but they don't call it. They used my word. They took it and they said fake. Because I came up with the name fake news a long time ago. Worked out good. But it's no longer good enough because it's not tough enough, because it's really corrupt news. It's beyond fake. They don't even write. They don't even write. All the money that Biden is stealing, you don't see one story. Years ago, they'd win Pulitzer Prizes. Today, even Pulitzer Prizes of very little value because, you know, we're suing the Pulitzer Foundation because they gave Pulitzer Prizes to people that wrote about the Russia hoax for their wonderful writing, their brilliance. They were wrong. They were totally wrong. And everybody admits they were wrong. So why doesn't Pulitzer just give back the awards? Because they're radical left lunatics. But we're suing. We'll see what happens. We're doing quite well. Never happened in the USA. This has never happened where an attorney general is told to take the Justice Department and the FBI and sue somebody, think of it, who's running for president and leading not only the Republicans by 50 points, but leading the Democrat by a lot. So he says, sue him, and that will bring him down. But they sued, and I have a guy, they call him Deranged Jack Smith. He's deranged. And you know, Biden, on the boxes stuff, Biden has almost 2,000 boxes. Some were held in Chinatown, not a good place for him. And you don't ever hear anything about him. And I came under a thing called the Presidential Records Act. Won't go into it, but it's beautiful. But we have this deranged lunatic looking at us, and he's got a very nice man, a very gentle man. Our guy leaks. He does things that are just terrible. And because of that, we're leading by a lot. Because frankly, I think it's had a huge impact because it shows how sick and how evil these people are, in addition to not knowing anything about the border, about the economy, about the military, or about dealing with other nations. So this is all about election interference, but that isn't quite good enough. Crooked Joe now wants the thug prosecutor, this deranged guy, to file a court order taking away my First Amendment rights so that I can't speak. So listen to this. We don't want you to speak about the case. The case is a ridiculous case. It's a First Amendment case. But we don't want Trump to speak. So they want me, they take away your rights on First Amendment. Now they sue because so now I have one of these lunatic reporters back there saying, sir, would like to talk to you about your case. Or, I'm sorry, I'm not allowed to talk about it. Somehow that's not good for votes. Do you agree? When we say I can't talk, I'd love to, I will talk about it. I will. They're not taking away my First Amendment right. So based on yet another radical left hoax. You know, I've gone through many hoaxes, as the people in this room know very well. But it's another one, radical left hoax like Russia, Russia, Russia. The no collusion Mueller report. How about that? After 3 years, we find no collusion. I was supposed to be like working for Russia. They went through millions of phone calls, not one call made to Russia. They have no collusion after almost 3 years. Then they created a fake dossier. It was made by, how bad are people when they make up a story about Russia? They put it in the fake dossier like it was legit. And even the guy that wrote it, who we're also suing, by the way, but the guy that wrote it, Christopher Steele, they offered him $1 million, the FBI, if he would affirm. They would beg you, please, take $1 million. The way they give money, man, the FBI, they give away a lot of money, don't they, huh? So they offered him $1 million to affirm it. He couldn't do it. He wouldn't do it. It turned out to be a total fake. But here's Adam Schiff, Shifty Schiff, and he comes out and he says to the reporters gathered, click, 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 they're all going crazy. Donald Trump Jr., the son of the President of the United States, will go to jail over Russia, Russia, Russia. Now think of it. He made it up with Hillary and all these people. They made it up, and they're saying that my son will go to jail. Now, how bad do you have to be to do that? So they know it's a phony story. They know it's a phony story. They say he's going to go to jail. These are not Mrs. Lewandowski. You hear that? Can you imagine if that were these kids? Can you imagine look what your husband got me into? I could have been relaxing at Mar-a-Lago or in the south of France, which I would prefer being in this country, frankly. But they got involved with FISA, the fraudulent FISA applications. Remember, they sent in applications to the courts, and they were all fraud. The judges never did anything about it. They knew they were frauds. It was written about. They never did anything about it. The 51 intelligence agents that said Hunter's laptop from hell was all Russia disinformation. Do not use it. You know, they say that made like from a 10 to a 17-point difference in the polls. The FBI Twitter files, the DOJ, Facebook, and all of the rest, look at 2,000 Mules. Look at what they did with that. Thousands and thousands and thousands of votes on tape, on camera. All of this will come up during this trial. All of this will come up. Because we won the election by a lot. Then they have this crap going on. I never even thought of this one. Trump didn't really believe he won the election. Let me tell you, people that know me say, that's one thing, I tell you. There was never a second of any day that I didn't believe that election was rigged. It was a rigged election. It was a rigged election, and it was a stolen, disgusting election. And this country should be ashamed. And they go after the people that want to prove that it was rigged and stolen so it never happens. They go after them. They don't go after the people that rigged it, okay? And we'll see how it all turns out. You know, we've been right about a lot of things, right? You ever see Trump was right about everything, ultimately? Let's see how that all works out. So in other words, I'll be the only politician in American history not allowed to speak because of our corrupt system. Sir, you're not allowed to speak on the show. In other words, I'll come here and I'll say, hi, everybody. Listen, not allowed to speak. Please vote for me, New Hampshire, if you would. Bye. And all I can say is the never-ending witch hunt continues, and we have exposed so much. Nobody's ever thought I have exposed so much. It's been incredible. But do not fear. We will win bigger and better than ever before. They rigged the presidential election in 2020, and we're not going to allow them to rig the presidential election in 2024. We're not going to allow it to happen. We're not going to allow it to happen, New Hampshire. And you're such an important state. You know, you're relatively small. You're so important politically. And you know, I kept Iowa and you in those first positions. Please remember that. Because I thought there was a great, beautiful tradition to it. They wanted to move you way back in the line, and I said, nope, we're not doing that. We're not doing that. You are in the position. You'll always be there as long as I have anything to say about it. Joe Biden is the most incompetent and corrupt president in U.S. history. The Biden crime family was taking in money from China, Ukraine, Russia, all these places he has to deal with, and so many others. And now whenever more Biden corruption is exposed, his henchmen charge me with a crime. You know, when they get something on Biden, oh, let's add on another indictment to that stupid indictment that we filed. Let's add on another one, because that takes the news cycle. Unfortunately, I get disproportionate publicity. So they indict me. He's right, great balls. But so they indict me. So when they want to keep something, they say, oh man, they got Hunter again. You know, at some point, Joe is going to have to say, you know, this son thing just isn't working out. Do you agree? The son thing. The son thing's not working out too good. All he had to do is pick up the laptop. Didn't the guy call him like 11? Pick up your laptop. Pick up your laptop. I wonder where that cocaine came from. What happened? That was the quickest investigation I've ever seen. You know, somebody told me, could be wrong. I always say that way you can never get sued, you know. Somebody told me, could be wrong. I'm sure it's wrong. But in that little cubicle where it was, there would be normally thousands of fingerprints, you know, people meet her. There were none. It was cleaned. It was so clean. It's the kind of place I'd like to be, actually, clean. I like cleanliness. But it's called a cover-up. Every time the radical left Democrats, Marxists, communists, fascists indict me, I consider it a great, great, great badge of honor. I do. Because I'm being indicted for you. I am being indicted for you. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. But never forget, our enemies want to stop us because we are the only ones who are going to stop them. It takes brave people to stop these radical lunatics. It takes brave people. They're sick people. They want to take away my freedom because I will never let them take away your freedom. That's what's happening here. They want to silence me because I will never let them silence you. And in the end, they're not after me, they're after you. I'm just standing in their way, and I always will stand in their way, I promise. And if you put me back in the White House, their reign will be over and America will be a free nation once again, because we do not have a free nation. And from my first day in office, I will appoint a special prosecutor to study each and every one of the many claims being brought forth by Congress, and they're doing a good job. Jamie Comer, Jim Jordan, all of them. Concerning all of the crooked acts, including bribes from China and many other countries, all these foreign countries sending money into the coffers of the Biden crime family, we will have a special prosecutor, and now they'll come after me even a little harder, but I don't know how many more. How much harder can they do it? I should have 4 by sometime next week. I never heard, you know, I went to the Wharton School of Finance. We never studied indictment. We never studied arrest. We never studied prison. These are sick people we're dealing with. It's often said that Republicans don't fight hard enough, and I happen to agree, but they never said that about Trump. And you have some Republicans that are fighting very hard now, I have to tell you. But you're going to see that on my first day in the presidency. The deep state is destroying our nation, but the tables will turn very quickly, and we will destroy the deep state. We will. And we got rid of a lot. It didn't look like it, but we got rid of a lot. But we're also fighting like hell and also doing a great job in holding back China, holding back North Korea, Kim Jong-un. All of a sudden, that problem stopped. Russia would have never gone in. China would not be talking about Taiwan right now. We did a great job. I mean, when you think about it, we did a job that very few people have done, on top of the greatest economy ever, strongest border ever, all of these things, and we had this stuff hanging over our head all the time. That's all they do. They're the party of misinformation and disinformation. In just 4 short years, we already achieved more than any administration, probably in the history of our country. We delivered the largest tax cuts and regulatory cuts by far in history, and likewise, we built the greatest economy in history. We achieved energy independence and would have shortly gained energy. We were going to be dominant. Energy dominance for the first time ever. We had gas prices at $1.87 a gallon. After years of bitter betrayals, you really have high prices here. Your electric costs are about the highest in the country. Good luck with your electric cars, everybody. How dumb is that? And they're sitting all over the place. Nobody wants them. How crazy? If you want an electric car, you buy an electric car. But you got to have choice, just like you're going to have school choice. After years of bitter betrayals of New Hampshire workers, I ended the disaster known as NAFTA, the worst trade deal ever made, replaced it with the USMCA, the best trade deal ever made. In fact, it's such a good deal that Mexico and Canada are now trying to renegotiate it with the Biden administration. And I say, don't let them do it. We suffered with that crazy NAFTA for years. Everyone said I'd never be able to terminate it because I had to terminate it through Congress. We got it terminated through Congress, NAFTA. We got the USMCA. It's the best trade deal ever made. It's unbelievable. Much better for us than it is for Mexico and Canada, as you can tell. I stood up to China like no administration has ever done before, bringing in billions and billions and billions of dollars pouring into our treasury when no other president had gotten literally 10 cents, not one penny they got from China. China had us figured out really well. I gave our farmers in Great New England lobstermen $28 billion from the massive tariffs I received from China. And DeSantis opposed the deal, by the way. He opposed it, just to put it out there quickly. He also opposed Social Security. I don't know if you know, he wanted to decimate Social Security, Medicare. And Social Security, he wanted to bring the minimum age up to 70. So I don't know if you know that, but... And remember one thing about a politician. When that's his original thought, that's where they go back to. They may come up here and talk to you, oh, I love Social Security. No, he voted 3 times to terminate and decimate it. We appointed over 300 federal judges and 3 great Supreme Court justices. And how about the ruling last week where they say that if you get great marks, you go to college first? There's no more crazy discrimination and other things. Nobody thought that was going to happen. And last year, those justices ruled to end Roe v. Wade. They ruled to end Roe v. Wade. Now, I have to tell you, we have to talk about it because it, energizes the other side a little bit, and it's not good. But just so you understand and how to talk about it, now pro-lifers have a tremendous power to negotiate. You had no power whatsoever. They could kill the baby at any time they wanted. They could kill the baby whenever they wanted. This moves the issue back also to the states, where all legal scholars want it back in the states. But you have tremendous power to negotiate. Like Ronald Reagan, before me, I support the 3 exceptions. You have to go with your heart. But I support for rape, incest, and for the life of the mother. I do that, and a lot of people do. Big portion do. And remember this, the Democrats, though, we're not the radicals. They're the radicals because they're willing to kill babies in their 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th month, and even after birth. So if you remember that, and the exceptions, in my opinion, are important, in my opinion, but you have to go with your heart. But we did something that was amazing. For 50 years, they've tried to get it out. They wanted it back in the states. All legal scholars, on both sides, wanted it back in the states. But you now have a tremendous power to negotiate something that's going to be good and going to be lasting. And it was a tremendous achievement, But just remember, they were the radicals. They try and make you into radicals and monsters. They were the radicals because they were killing babies in 5th, 6th, 7th, and nobody on either side wants that to happen. They did a poll of Democrats. The 9th month, they had like nobody. So you have to remember, so you're in a very good position. You have the power now of negotiation. We gave you something that was really a fantastic thing that most people thought couldn't be done, and now you have to use it wisely. They're the extremists, not us, and we created the most secure border in U.S. history. We built nearly 500 miles of border wall. We got Mexico to give us 28,000 soldiers free of charge. Remember when they said, oh, Mexico didn't pay? Mexico gave us 28,000 soldiers free of charge. That's a lot more than a little bit for the wall and a lot less complicated. I said to the president, a lot of people are coming in from Mexico. The cartels are bringing in really bad people. You have to give us soldiers. No, I will not do that. I said, no, you have to. How many do you need? 28,000. Well, that's a lot. That's a lot of soldiers. Pancho Villa, you know, with the bullets going on. Pancho Villa, these soldiers aren't politically correct either. Ours have to be politically correct. If our soldier speaks up to a person a little bit rough, they put him in the brig for the rest of his life, okay? It's not good what they do to our soldiers, I tell you. They don't get it. But we had 28,000 soldiers. So people say, well, what about Mexico? Did Mexico? But I said, much better. But they said, we're not going to do it. I said, that's okay. Don't do it, but you're going to suffer big consequences, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to sign legislation, which is on my desk, that for every car, you know, they took 32% of our business out of the United States over a period of 22 years. 30, not during my administration, nothing. Because I told people, you go there, you're going to put a big tariff if you sell it back in. That's all you had to do, and you would have kept everybody. But they took 32. I said, here's what you do. If you don't give us 28,000 soldiers, I am going to put a 25% tariff on everything that Mexico sells into the United States, meaning you're not going to sell anything because nobody's going to want it. No, 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 you should not do that. I said, that's what I'm going to do. And they said, you know, in thinking about it, we would be honored to give you 28,000 soldiers. So we had 28,000 soldiers. Remain in Mexico, that was another one I got. Remain in Mexico. When these people come in, they come into our country and they stay and they never leave. That's it. And they're criminals, and they come in from many times, many jails. They've been emptied out. And what I did is I got it, remain in Mexico. Now the people have to remain. But the problem is that Biden is giving it all up. He's given everything up. Our medical stay, he gave up. Even the judge said, you don't want to give that up. Our country's going to be overrun. So they gave it up. But all of that was just the beginning. Here's some of the agenda that I will immediately implement when we become that's you and me, we're all going to become the president of the United States, 47th president of the United States. And before I even arrive at the Oval Office, shortly after I win the presidency, we will have that horrible war between Russia and Ukraine settled. It'll be settled. I know them both very well. Get it done very quickly, maybe in 24 hours. And I'm the only candidate who can make you this promise. I will prevent World War III. I'll prevent it. Not going to happen. We have a man right now who can't put two sentences together, and he's negotiating on our behalf with nuclear weapons. He's lost every country. Now we're enemies with Russia, with China, with North Korea, with Iran. I terminated the Iran deal. I got Jerusalem, the capital of Israel, and built our beautiful building out of Jerusalem stone, right? Our beautiful, old Jerusalem. He can't put two words together. He said, well, that's true, too. No, but we have a man who can't put two sentences together, and he's negotiating with people that, like President Xi of China, he's negotiating with people that are at the top of their game. There's nobody in Hollywood that can play the role of some of these people. These are smart, tough killers. Macron of France, and you heard this story maybe quickly because I'm sweating like a dog up here. But does anybody want me to stop, or should we go forward? Go. Macron of France, he put a big tax. He wanted to put a big tax on our companies doing business in France. I said, you can't do that. I gave it to my people to do. They weren't able to do anything about it. 2 weeks, they come back. Sir, he's very strong on that. He wants to do it. I think it was like a 25% tax, some ridiculous tax for American companies. I called him. I said, Emmanuel, I like you very much. You're my friend, but you can't put the tax on. If you do, here's what's going to happen. I'm going to put a 100% tariff on all of your wines and champagnes that I don't even like. I'm going to put a 100% tariff on wines and champagnes coming out of France and coming into... No, 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 Donald, you cannot do that. I said, oh, I can do that. You have 10 minutes to tell me. He said, I give up, and he took off the tax. That's what happened. I gave it to my geniuses. They couldn't... Sir, there's no way we can stop it. It was passed by his legislature. To stop Biden's inflation catastrophe, bring down the cost of energy and become energy independent and even energy dominant. We are just, 3 years ago, we were energy dominant. We were energy independent, but we will drill, baby drill. We are going to be drilling and bringing it way down. To bring 10,000 Yeah. It's going to bring tens of thousands more manufacturing jobs back to New Hampshire. We already did it. We made this place very successful. You know, anything that's good that's happening with the economy, it's only because they're running on the fumes of what we built. You understand that? They're running on the fumes, but those fumes can't last much longer, and they're just pouring money out. You know, all these crazy deals, this Inflation Reduction Act, you know, $1.7 trillion, and it increases inflation. But they're running on the fumes of what we did, and we did an incredible job. I will impose a border tariff on all foreign-made goods coming into this country. And I will pass the Trump Reciprocal Trade Act very quickly. That is, if India, China, France, anybody, Germany, they charge us, we don't charge them, because we had stupid people. And I started changing that a lot, but then we had COVID, we had to fix that mess. But all a gift from China. But reciprocal trade, if they're charging us 100% for a motorcycle, when we do a motorcycle, we charge them 100%. Right now, they charge 157% for a motorcycle. Harley would have to send. So what does Harley do? They have to go and build a plant in India, or they have to go and build. No more. No more. We were all set to do this, too. It was all set. We had a couple of stupid senators that didn't like it. One of them, coming from Pennsylvania, said to me, "Sir, this is not free trade." I said, wait a minute, this country, I won't tell you which, is charging us 200%. We charge them nothing. Would it be okay if I charged them half, 100%? No, sir, that's not free trade. How about 50%? How about 25%? How about 10%? He said, no, sir, it's not free trade. I said, you're either corrupt or you're stupid as hell, because it's crazy. So we're going to pass it. So if they charge us, very simple, we charge them, and it's probably all going to disappear. The Biden economic bust will be replaced with the historic Trump economic boom. I will immediately terminate every open borders policy of the Biden administration. Our country is being invaded. Following the Eisenhower model, we will use all necessary state, local, federal, and military resources to carry out the largest domestic deportation operation in American history. Gotta do it. Gotta do it. And I will use Title 42 to end the child trafficking crisis by returning trafficked children to their families in their home countries immediately. To stop the Marxist prosecutors who release rapists and murderers while persecuting Republicans, conservatives, people of faith, and me, by the way. I will direct a completely overhauled DOJ to investigate every radical DA and AG in America for their illegal, racist in reverse enforcement of the law. And we will bring back a thing called stop and frisk in our cities. On day one, I will sign a new executive order to cut federal funding for any school pushing critical race theory, transgender insanity, and other inappropriate racial, sexual, or political content on our children, our beautiful children. Our beautiful children are being destroyed by these maniacs. I will keep men out of women's sports. It's very easy to do. And I will sign a law prohibiting child sexual mutilation in all 50 states. Can you imagine? Can you imagine even having to say that? Think of this. 15 years ago, could you imagine? I will stop child sexual mutilation. Can you imagine having to, that's actually a part of my campaign. Can you imagine having to say that we're going to stop the mutilation of children? Just as I did for 4 years, I will fully uphold the Second Amendment. It's going to be in good shape. And I will fully secure our elections. They'll be done the right way. Our goal will be one-day voting with paper ballots and voter ID. That's what our goal is. But until then, Republicans must compete, and we must win. 2024 is the most important election we've ever had. But this is what we must do to restore our country to greatness. The USA is a mess. Our economy is crashing. Inflation is out of control. China, Russia, Iran, and North Korea have formed together as a menacing and destructive coalition like we've never seen before. Our currency is crashing and will no longer, in my opinion, be the world standard if it keeps going like this, which will be the single greatest defeat